And that's my challenge with what I'm seeing in content marketing in the online space around holding standards. This, I'm a boundaried queen type energy is, why do we need to keep on reinforcing this? What's missing in the step before? When you join my spaces, when you come in to work with me, I have clear guidelines about when I'm available and when I'm not, but I say it once. And I sometimes break those rules.
Welcome to Rich Work, the podcast for established female entrepreneurs ready to turn their expertise into premium clients and consistent high-ticket revenue. I'm Rachel Pearson, global brand and business strategist, skincare obsessed, and always distracted by booking the next mini break. Here you'll learn how to position like a luxury brand, attract clients who love to invest, and build wealth that actually lasts, so you can create the business and life you want, not someone else's version of success. This is where premium positioning and building wealth meet for women who are rewriting the rules. Let's get into it.
2025 was a big shift in my business, and it wasn't a huge pivot. It wasn't that I started to do a lot of new things. I actually did a lot less last year than I had done in the year before, and it became a pivotal year because I realized there was a huge part of me that I had lost. I was in different mentoring spaces. I was working with different coaches, and that's something that for some people works, for other people doesn't. For me, I've always liked to be in different things where I have different perspectives. But last year, it really started to go against me. And there was a lot of noise. There was a lot of opinion and input, and it all came from a genuine good place, but a lot around boundaries. And I was in spaces that were premium spaces, places that I was spending thousands of pounds to be in, and great mentors, great coaches. This is not about them. But there was a lot of focus on what to do and what not to do when you are working at a higher level, like when you are working with clients who are looking to build and grow and scale their business, when they want to make more money, when they want to lead in a different way, when they are really elevating their leadership and how they show up for their business. I was in those kind of spaces, and I realized that I just felt really disconnected from a lot of what was being said, to the point where I wasn't really going into them with the questions around strategy, and I wasn't really bringing what I could and should have been to those spaces to be able to get support. And I was like, what is going on here? Because I've paid a lot of money for these spaces. I know that on paper they should be where I go into, how my business grows. And I sat with it and I thought, what is this? Like, what is holding me back? Because I don't think right now this is a me not being able to know what to ask problem. And I was like, it hit me. I felt like I couldn't do anything right. And I'd go into a space and it would say, one mentor was saying, make sure you have to have really tight boundaries. This is around leadership. Don't message your clients on the weekends. Don't be too responsive. Hold your boundaries or you won't be seen as a leader. And I found myself really paralyzed because my values, the natural way that I show up, wasn't matching what I was being told I, quote unquote, should be doing. I am somebody who I work really hard. I have done throughout my career before I moved into the online space. I really love working. I love it. And I will work on the weekends if I want to. I will message a client. If I see on their stories that they're celebrating something and it's a weekend, I will message them to celebrate them. If I see something that they're advertising and selling, and I think of a really great angle, which my mind is constantly going, so is usually coming up, I will message them and tell them. Is it 100% of the time? No. But I realized that I was feeling so judged for that. And this is on me, that I was feeling that. But it really brought up, when we talk about standards, when we talk about these quote unquote high level clients, what does that mean? Because to me, it's not about following the rules, and it's not about constantly telling people when you're available, when you're not available. Your standards are not about putting in these hard and fast boundaries that if God forbid you break any of them, then you're not any kind of leader. It's about being in alignment with your values. This is what I'm going to be talking about in today's episode is premium client standards and why I feel like the online space has started to get this backwards and what my viewpoint is that hopefully helps to break this discussion out for you. If you are sat there thinking, I just feel really disconnected. I know that I work at this level. I know the clients that I serve. I know that my mission in this business is really big. I want to help. I want to serve, but I'm feeling really disconnected because I'm in a box. Then this episode is for you. There is a huge conversation right now in the online space, and I think particularly in coaching in the world that I'm in, about standards and boundaries. And it's not a surprise because particularly for women, saying no is huge, right? We are naturally nurturers, givers. We want to bring communities together. That is inherent. It's not necessarily about being a people pleaser or not. It's about who you are as a woman. And so to say no, to exclude somebody, to feel like you are letting somebody down, those are all the associations that come with saying no. So to actually have those guidelines in place to be able to say, this is not for me, is a huge step for a lot of women. But I feel like a lot of the way that standards are talked about in business and in the online space is performance and is so rigid. We announce them, and I can see it when somebody has a shift in their business. They started to make more money or they want to work with a different level of client. I can see that sometimes they become this like rigid being online. And I'm like, what happened to your personal brand? What happened to you? What happened to the humanness behind it? And we announce these standards, we enforce them, we talk about them constantly in guidelines when you join a program, in putting into the space that you're in, when you're available, when you're not available. I only work 9 to 5. I don't respond to Slack on the weekends. I have a 48-hour turnaround time. And it's important to have those in. Like my belief is we do need those guidelines because it sets the expectation for how you work and for your clients as well. However, I feel like those standards should be set way before somebody puts their money down with you. And that's my challenge with what I'm seeing in content marketing in the online space around holding standards. This, I'm a boundaried queen type energy is, why do we need to keep on reinforcing this? What's missing in the step before? When you join my spaces, when you come in to work with me, I have clear guidelines about when I'm available and when I'm not, but I say it once. And I sometimes break those rules. Like I said, I will contact a client if I'm just really excited for them. That's the way I work. I have that kind of relationship. I don't have a problem with hundreds of clients messaging me all weekend. I don't have an issue with clients that consistently come in and expect to work one-to-one with me when they're in a group program. In fact, I don't have any of those issues that I can think about. But I'm not constantly telling people what my standards are, what my boundaries are. And that's because I think the problem is that when your standards are rules that you have to keep on announcing, that's a positioning problem. That's not about boundaries or you needing to tighten them or needing to have more process. That stems from your positioning. And this is where I feel like I want to open the conversation out about what premium client standards mean. And I'm going to give you an example from outside of the online space that really stuck with me and was it was almost like a breath of relief when I heard it. I was like, okay, what I believe, what I stand for is it. And I went to an event last November, so November 25. So towards the end of this year, which in all honesty, 2025 was such a turbulent year for me. It was really high growth for the business, but a lot of the time I was like, what is going on here? Like, this is not the business that I really want to create. And was when I realized that I really needed to start listening to myself more. I went to this conference in Dubai, and one of the keynote speakers there was Anna Wintour, who is everywhere right now. If you're listening to this episode at the current time of recording, Devil Wears Prada 2 is out. even if you don't see that film, you know who Anna Wintour is. Huge figure in terms of Vogue, Condé Nast, media publishing, very distinctive, with the bob that always makes me think of Edna from The Incredibles. If you've got kids, you'll totally know what I'm saying. But she was asked the question, what does leadership look like? And her answer was something I was really not expecting. So I thought she would talk about leadership is about having a clear vision and being very convicted in who you're for and what you do. And she did speak about that throughout her talk. But she was really emotional during this question and obviously still had her big sunglasses on, but you could hear it in her voice. And she spoke about how when it was 9/11, obviously a terrible time for New York, for the world. I remember seeing that happen when I got back from college, like switching on the news. It was just horrific. And what I didn't realize until I heard her talk was that when 9/11 happened, it was the first week of New York Fashion Week. And a lot of upcoming fashion designers had put everything into that week. It was their week to break through. And so when 9/11 hit, there was a lot of attention on that event, but the ripple impact of that was that the city stopped moving. Everything was cancelled. Events, you didn't know when they were going to happen. And so these fashion designers were facing bankruptcy. It wasn't just about Fashion Week not happening. It was, I don't have anything. I've put everything into this week and I am facing having nothing left. And Anna Wintour and the team at Vogue did was they got together and they said, what do we want to do? What are we doing in this moment? What does Vogue represent in this moment? And they chose to go with their values. Vogue has always been a publication that is very focused on community building a community around fashion. It's not just about looking at beautiful clothes. It is about the stories of designers. It is about the world of fashion and celebrating that. So they created a funding initiative to support fashion designers, fashion founders that could access grants immediately during that week in the aftermath of 9/11. And it saved those fashion designers from going out of business. And since then, that grant that started during that time till today has become the grant that has enabled fashion designers that you will know the names of now. Several of them have come through that program. It really stuck with me because she was talking about values. Yes, it was about leadership, but Vogue didn't need to go out and tell everybody, look at what we're doing. We're so great. We're supporting these designers. This is what we're doing. They didn't know what this was going to turn into. They didn't know that what started at that time was going to last 20 plus years. They just acted based on what the values of the brand represented at that time. And it really stuck with me because it is about the standards of that brand. Vogue now, when you're looking at it being not just a magazine, it's a media brand, right? So it's got to go across multiple different platforms now. But when you look at Vogue, you have a choice whether you engage with their content or not, especially now we have so much other content out there. But you will go to Vogue because it has that standard of community, the world of fashion, supporting up and coming designers, giving you access and insight into people that you don't know yet, but they know are going to be huge. That's why you go to Vogue. So that's a standard that they hold of why you will go to consume that publication. But that standard is not something that they constantly talk about. They're not saying, we are the leading publication, we are the leading media outlet for innovation and fashion. Like, you just know that. You know that from what Vogue does because of who it is behind the brand, because of how it leads with its values. And this is where, yes, this is an outside perspective of how a brand like Vogue has done it, but this is what I really relate into the business space, into the online world, into how you are expressing to your clients, your customers about what your standards are. It comes from who you are. It comes from who you work with. It comes from those values being so clear, embodied in decisions you make, expressed through the content that you create, shown through and felt through the decisions that you choose not to take forward, or people you choose not to collaborate with. But you don't have to keep on reinforcing it all the time. It's about people seeing that from you, you showing it without needing to constantly tell them or put in these rigid rules that mean that people feel like they can't be in your world, they can't be in your space unless they follow this particular way. In my view, the ideal clients or customers for your work are the ones that deeply share your values. It doesn't mean you have to be exactly the same person or that you're inviting in these like mini me clones that come through. But at a core level, do you share core values, a shared understanding of what you're trying to create here? And I don't think that that should be a surprise when somebody comes, invests with you, and they get a set of guidelines in a welcome email. They're like, oh, I didn't think it was going to be like this. You don't want any surprises at that point. This is way before. This is in your marketing. This is in your content. This is how people see you show up when you talk to people in person. They're able to get that sense of your values, of your standards there. So if you right now are thinking, I feel like I'm not working with the type of people that I want to work with, or I have clients in my space that aren't matching how I know that I want to work with them. I'm not able to bring a depth in my work, or we're having the same conversations over and over again. Then this is an invitation to you of where are you shrinking yourself down, not coming forward with your values and relying on, well, I've set these guidelines up, they should be able to follow them. Has to be compatible. Who you are looking to call into your spaces, who you want to work with, is compatible with how you hold yourself, how you lead yourself based on your values. So if, for example, your value is reciprocal respect, very obvious one to have, you naturally will attract clients who show it with maturity, who have intention. And it's not because you had to screen them through 3 complicated forms application process. It's because that's the energy that you're moving from. I do have application forms for my spaces, but it's one. And also right now, I haven't had to turn anybody away. And it's not because I'm letting anybody in to work with me, but it's because I read the form and that's just a sense check. It's not a screening process. It's a sense check of, yeah, my client is resonating with my content. They see how I move. They get my values. There's a shared understanding here. And then the application is just a sense check for me and them. And I don't do sales calls. I hardly ever do sales calls. So this is like an efficiency thing for me, but it's not oh, how did this happen? How did this person think that this was the right space for them? So a question for you is, when you look at the clients that you have that you feel aren't the right fit, or you see inquiries come in and they're not the right stage, right level, right type of business for the services or the offers that you have, is where are you tolerating that right now? And that can even be in how you are allowing those clients to even move through to an application process. Are you tolerating that because you're really not showing the depth of your values in your content? Are you tolerating it because you're holding back on speaking opinions that you really care about and you share with your clients once they're working with you, but before they work with you, they don't get a glimpse of that? The thing that you maybe believe is holding standards, not telling people maybe how much you work because maybe they'll feel like you work too hard, considering that you talk about leading a business and having flexibility, but actually you really want to work hard and you get to lead a life with flexibility, but it's because you work really bloody hard. Then tell people that. I feel like so many clients that I am working with now, and I saw this come through in 2025 as well, are successful in their business. They are making good money. They have a team. They know what they want, but they are so like rabbit in headlights around making a wrong move, speaking too much about something because somebody else over there said that speaking about that is going to put off high-level clients. That may be what works for them. It may be how they attract in their clients. But for you, as somebody who leads, as somebody who has a dynamic way of leading, you are diluting the very reason why somebody is going to be magnetized to you, and then relying on quote unquote standards, as in application forms, complex screening processes, the holding boundaries when people get into spaces, you're relying on that to do the work. If you're listening to this and you feel that gap between the clients that you have and the clients that you know that you're really here to serve, between what you truly value and how you're actually operating, showing up, what you're letting show in your business right now, if that is the gap, that is what we do inside Calibration, my mastermind. It's a 6-month space for women who know they're operating at a high level, but your positioning, your leadership, your pricing, your business model, it hasn't caught up yet. So if you have been feeling this pull, resonating with what I'm saying, there's a link in the show notes to apply to Calibration and to find out more about the space. What I'm describing is what I call the standards action gap. So if you say that your standard is working with conscious, mission-driven women who are ready to invest in themselves, but then you're negotiating on price, or you're doubting that if you hold the price, then a client might not come and work with you, that is where there is incompatibility. Or if your standard is working with women at a level in business who they have to already be making 6 figures, or they have to have a team in place, or they have to have consistent client inquiries, but then you are over-delivering, over-explaining, trying to prove your value because you don't quite believe in the value yet yourself, that is where there's incompatibility. And none of these are about the clients that you have being bad clients, or you needing to fix something in yourself, or needing to fundamentally change the way that you work. And none of these are that your current clients are bad clients, or that the people that you've worked with before who haven't been the right fit are bad people. It's not that. This is about values and action misalignment. And every single time that you are allowing that gap to exist, that is what means that you then feel the need to tighten up your standards by telling somebody them. I know, especially for the women that I work with who are very much like, let me go and fix it. Like, let me get in. They're doers, right? They get in and they fix things. They'll come to me and say, I think I need to review my onboarding process, or I need to really look at the way the standards are being held within this space, this offer. I'm like, tell me about the client that you really want in this space. Like, let's start there first. Now, let's look at why you're not speaking to that client in your content. Yes, we can continue to do things to refine the process to make sure that the way that a space works, or way that an offer works, is really efficient. But relying on that because you don't see that the clients you're working with are the right fit, that's not the problem. It's because you're not actually operating from your core values, and that is impacting your standards. And it is putting pressure on the operational part of your business to reinforce them, when what we really need to look at first is your positioning, is your business model, is why you're not holding a pricing. That is what premium client standards are. So how do you start to address this? First, sounds so obvious, but this is usually where we have not looked at this for at least 6 months. What are your actual values? Not the ones that you think you should have, because those are what sell, but the ones that are true for you. I was speaking to somebody who has just come in to support in my team, and I was saying to her that one area, one aspect of my content that I want to bring out more and my values is I am relentless. And that is a word that creates tension. Being relentless as a woman is not understood. I am relentless. I always get what I want because I always make it happen. And sometimes that can take me 10 years. I will not give up. And I said it really openly to her because I realized that in the way that I've been showing up, I have not been communicating that. And in order for clients to get the most with my work, they have to match me on that. Not needing to work 24/7, that's not what relentless means, but a hunger to go for what they want and a hunger to stay true to that when it is not going to plan. So when you look at your values, I mean, I'm not going to go out and talk about this all over my Instagram. I'm not going to say, I only work with you if you are relentless, but I am going to be bringing it through in how I show up, how I share my story, how I talk about my client results. What are your values that are true to you today and for the business that you're building? Second, look at where you're not living it. Where are you compromising? Where are you negotiating, saying, I can do that another time. That can happen when X amount of money, X amount of clients. That's the standards action gap. And that gap is exactly what attracts the misaligned clients in and repels the right ones, because they see you acting in that gap, and the person who sees you in that gap resonates with it, rather than the person that you know you can lead resonating with the way that you show up in your full leadership. And then thirdly, make one change. From listening to this episode, make one change. I do not want you to go away from this episode and create 10 new rules, go and rewrite your Telegram onboarding guide or your welcome sequence. That is not what this is about. Start living your values more clearly. That is what is going to magnetize the right people in for you. So it might be, I'm not explaining my pricing. I'm going to state it and that's it. Or I am going to stop taking on clients that I am not excited about, because your value behind it is you're building a business that is driven by a bigger mission than one client. That's where your values start to really come into your standards. Or it might be, I'm going to share how I fully work, including the fact that I do sometimes message clients on weekends because I'm thinking about their growth. Or I said to one of my one-to-one clients the other day, I said, I've been thinking about your Instagram bio because I'm a bit weird like that. She said, I love it. That's what I do for my clients as well. When you lead with your values, the clients who match those values will find you. And the clients that don't will self-select out. And that's what we want. That's what good marketing is. But right now, we're relying too much on upholding standards rather than looking at why those clients that first come in aren't matching the standards in the first place. And a big piece to this, which will be another episode, but I'm going to drop in because it just connects so well, is around your pricing. When your standards are rooted in your values, you will show up differently for what you charge. If you have clients that you are tolerating, who are capping your ability to charge at the level that you know that you should really be charging at because you don't quite believe that you deserve it, or you think that they're going to push back, that's on you to change it. You have to recalibrate your standards, your values first, because pricing will then become an obvious change, an obvious next step. The pricing will then align with everything that you're bringing. What I want you to take away from this episode is that the clients that you feel are not a great fit in your space, or the inquiries that you see coming in right now that you feel are not aligned to what you do and who you are, that's not a people problem or a boundaries problem. It's a value actions problem. It is a positioning problem. The moment that you close that gap, the moment you actually start living your values instead of upholding your rules, the energy shifts. Your positioning is way more magnetic to the people that are meant to be in your work, and your pricing will become the obvious choice. It's not a justification. The pricing matches how you are showing up, how you're expressing your work, how much you are embodied in what you do. If you want to think about the level of client that you're truly here to serve, then go into episode 6 around your catalyst client, which will be a really good reintroduction into thinking about the client you truly want in your world. Next week, I'm going into something that I think might be even more uncomfortable than what we've talked about today, which is what happens when your results have outgrown your positioning. So when you are delivering at a level, but you're not being seen for it yet. That's going to be next week's episode, and I will see you there.
Thanks for tuning in to Rich Work. I'd love it if you left a review. It helps other women to find us. In the meantime, follow me on Instagram at rachelpearson.co for a different take on premium positioning, one that's not about fitting a box. See you next week.